Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Mark Walters, and I'm sitting here with the great, the wonderful Mr. Duncan Jones. And, buddy, 2 for 2. I mean, this thing's great.
Glad you liked it.
I'm such a huge fan of Moon, and I know you've been getting a lot of amazing feedback on that. And I would imagine that after doing a film that received such overwhelming praise, that there had to be a lot of pressure of like, okay, now how do I follow that up? And but I think this is equally fascinating and well put together. And
I was very lucky. I went straight from Moon into source code, so there was no time for me to start worrying about what was going to happen next. So that helped a lot.
Talk about bringing together the cast, because it's an interesting cast. I mean, I guess in some ways you could say it's kind of an ensemble, because you've got 4 different characters that it bounces back between them, but it is sort of all kind of kept in a small bubble of these guys, with a great supporting cast around them. But bringing on like Jake and Vera and Michelle.
Well, I can't take credit for Jake. Jake brought me on, so
Nice.
so I actually had a meeting with Jake because I really wanted to work with him. As you probably know, I have this eternal Project Mute I've been trying to make for years and years. And I had gone to Jake with it to talk to him about that, and he said, "That sounds great, but I've got this thing you should read, source code." So that's how I became involved in source code. And once the two of us sort of talked a little bit about it, and I made my suggestions as to what I thought maybe the change of tone should be, because the script that I read was quite took itself quite seriously. It was quite And I said, look, if we inject some humor into this, I think it will make the film even better. We agreed on that, and then we started talking about other casts, and the first person to work out was the sort of love interest, Christina. And I was a big fan of Michelle Monaghan after seeing Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Oh God, she's so great.
And I thought if we could get like half the chemistry that her and Robert Downey Jr. had in that film, we'd be winning. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
Oh my God, we've got a Sheen reference in this interview. Winning. So I didn't think I was going to get to work in a Sheen question. So it's nice that we got that.
So let's move on. And then Vera Farmiga and Jeffrey Wright, and both of those are tremendous actors. Yeah. I knew Jeffrey Wright from a long time ago. He did a film called Basquiat, and I met him back then. And so I was able to contact him and talk to him about it. And he said, yeah, I'd like to see it. So he read the script and loved it. And then Vera Farmiga, who I was a huge fan of, after having seen, was it Up in the Air, I think?
Yeah.
And I thought she was amazing and so nuanced. And for the role that she plays, Goodwin, it really does seem, I felt that we needed an actor who was able to perform subtly and in a small enclosed environment. You'll understand why. And I think she just has that. She has the ability to really communicate with the smallest flicker of an eyebrow, and it just really works. She's fantastic.
Is it difficult shooting? I mean, obviously a movie like this that deals with, I mean, probably the most obvious comparisons would be movies like Groundhog Day or maybe TV shows like Quantum Leap, and having to kind of go back and because I remember listening to the commentary track on...
Did you pick up the wink in the film?
Oh yes, I actually picked up on that voice the second I heard it, and I was like sitting there like, oh, I know, and nobody else around me had any idea, and I'm like, it's Scott Bakula, but I was so excited. I thought that was such a good... No, was that your decision?
Yeah. I thought, well, listen,
Quantum Leap fans are going to be very happy.
Because, well, the thing is, there are some, it's a type of film. It's a thriller, but it's got sci-fi elements, and there's a device in the film, the idea of repeating an event multiple times. That obviously alludes to so many other films, and in my mind, in that show in particular. So so it just seemed to me that where I could, I wanted to let those people who picked up on that know that I knew that.
Right.
That makes sense.
Well, and what was interesting is, like, I was listening to the commentary track on Groundhog Day, and they were talking about the difficulties of having to shoot essentially the same script pages or the same kind of setting and the same way it plays out over and over and over again. Yeah. Was that a particular challenge on this film of having to kind of recreate that same environment?
I guess we would have had similar challenges to them, but I kind of broke it down on a pretty detailed graph as just because I didn't want repetition. I wanted to work out, well, how do we do this same event in a way where you don't feel like it's repeating? And that was really, I worked out, well, we can shoot this area. If it's on the train, we can shoot this area of the train and from this direction for this pass, and then I would sort of change all the camera positions for the next pass, change the events that are occurring. So it does feel new all the time, even though it's at the same event at times.
the ending on the film, which I'm not going to give away, so don't worry, there's no spoilers in this interview. But I did think it was kind of interesting because to me there are 3 points in the film that could have been the ending.
Yeah.
And what I'm curious about was this a case of when you guys were looking at the script, did you say, well, why don't we add this element also, or was that always in the script from the beginning?
No, it was something that was added. I added it, right. And it was purely my geekery that insisted on it. There was an ending that was there before, which I found very saccharine, and I felt like, look, you just can't leave the geeks like me hanging on this question. So I insisted, and I'm delighted with it. I love it a lot. You know, some people. I think it works really well.
It's a great, almost a Twilight Zone or Outer Limits type of ending. Yeah. You know, I think some of the great endings are the non-conventional endings in movies. I love the way The Mist ended. Yeah. You know, despite how other people feel about it. You know, but I think it was a really great. Like you say, it was a nod to geek culture in a way because I mean, people like us would just eat that stuff up. You know, so what about the idea of maybe revisiting this and coming back and doing like a sequel to Source Code?
Well, I certainly hope I get the chance to work with Jake again. I really enjoyed it, and as you know, as we just discussed, the reason that I got involved in Source Code is I wanted to work with Jake on something else anyway. So hopefully I'll work with him again, whether it's on a Source Code thing or something else. Kind of is up in the air. It'll depend on what happens in the next few months.
So where are things sitting for you right now in terms of your next project? Are things moving forward finally?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I'm busy writing away. So what I'm hoping to do next will probably not be Mute, but it will be another science fiction film, and there's a good chance it'll be my last science fiction film for a while. Because after that, there's a couple of other genres projects that are looking interesting, which are not science fiction. So,
well, you were talking about interjecting comedy into Source Code. How do you feel about the idea of maybe doing like just a really broad comedy? Is that something that appeals to you?
There's so many guys who are so good at that. In fact, we're both going down to Austin in the next few days, and I'm hopefully going to meet up with Simon Pegg and Nick Frost.
Oh yeah, those guys.
Edgar, the big British
I would
contingent.
love to see you do something with those guys.
Well,
I think that would be
talked
amazing.
to Simon a little bit about something. There's this crazy, really, really dark film from I think the 60s called Peeping Tom.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it.
And I was thinking, Simon Pegg doing that, with a real tongue-in-cheek version of that could be really funny, but because it's so dark.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We'll talk and catch up and see what happens.
In Source Code, it seems like a film like this would be shot pretty lean in terms of there's not a lot of room to cut stuff out. Was there anything that didn't make it into the final film that maybe you'll put out on the DVD at some point?
There's a couple of little things. I think structurally the script had been worked on for such a long time that it was pretty tight, and because of the compressed time frame we had to shoot the film, Jake had just finished Prince of Persia, and then we knew that he had to go off and do the pressed Prince of Persia, so our whole shoot had to fit within that gap. Yeah. So we had to cover what we needed for the film, and there really wasn't much time to experiment beyond that.
Yeah.
So there's a few things, but not a huge amount.
Great blooper reel, perhaps.
There is actually a blooper reel. The thing about blooper reels, obviously, this is all new to me, but on a bigger film like this, on a blooper reel, you have to get everyone who's on the blooper reel to sign off on everything. Whether they do that, I don't know yet.
People don't know that sometimes. It's a hard process.
Yeah.
Duncan, seriously, man, this is a real pleasure for me. It's
nice
awesome
to
to finally meet you and especially to talk to you about a film this great.
Well, I hope it goes well and have fun.
We're going to have some fun in Austin. Duncan Jones, the movie is Source Code. Go check it out. It opens April 1st. No fooling. And we'll see you on bigfanboy.com. Thanks, guys. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.
Man,
Really
that was
nice
awesome.
meeting you.
Yeah, that was terrific.